There we go. Um, hello. Well, this is really exciting. I'm excited for today's live stream because I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to show off this thing we have on our wall right here. So we put this on the wall in the kitchen, and um, this is really, really, really neat. Let me see what this is going on here. So this thing is what we use to keep track of what season it is in our house. So it says, which season it is here, and then it has the different virtues that go with the season. So today we just uploaded this, or uploaded. I'm like talking like a strange digital person. We just wrote this on here, and it's awesome because we can keep track of what season it is and what the different virtues are. And so this has been a really cool way for our family to just make sure to honor the seasons, to make time for them, to kind of have that reminder in the wall of what season we're at. And then because it's right by our dining room table, which is it's like like it goes like that, and the dining room table's like right there. You can, it's just there, ready to use in order to talk, in order to like have conversations about whichever season it is and what's going on with that season. So, as usual, to start, before we jump too much into this love season right here, it's funny, it's backwards right now, and the thing is making it backwards. That's kind of funny. But before we jump much into the love season, as usual, we want to do what we usually do, which is review. Whoa! What did I just do? Hey, look! I turned my camera off. Ha! I learned how to do that. Okay. So I want to review what the last season. So we just finished last 30 days. How did you grow? Please in the chat tell us how you grew in the last 30 days. And to start, I'll kind of talk about myself, and then I'd love to hear from you guys. So in the last 30 days, well, one thing that's kind of neat about the last 30 days is that one of the things I do with people, and that is help them make a life, like a year plan. So I'll help people sort of communicate with their higher selves, then use that to develop a plan for how they're going to grow each season of the 13 seasons, and put together this plan for the year. And it's interesting. My plan had me real busy doing lots of things every single season. But during the 11th season, the one we just had, my plan had like nothing on it. And I think that was because I just kind of needed a break. My plan said, dude, just do nothing. So it's kind of restful that way in a lot of ways. But a lot of things came up to grow, sort of that weren't on the plan, that just came up incidentally. And I don't know. I feel like I've grown in lots of ways. I feel like I've grown a lot in my relationship with money. I feel like I've grown a lot in my ability. Well, okay, know yourself. I guess what I've known is I've been able to understand better this season who I am and how my past experiences have influenced what's going on for me right now. I went to a friend of mine started like a men's group online to be able to get online with other men and just learn about and talk about feelings and stuff and be vulnerable. And I went to the group, and through this group, I learned some really profound, deep things about how experiences I had when I was 4 years old have deeply influenced what I do every day. And it's been, and I had some pretty tragic stuff happen when I was 4 years old, and I hadn't ever realized until like now how that affected who I am and how I act on a day-to-day basis. So making that realization was really important healing for me, and is continuing to be important healing for me. So I'd say that is just discovering that about myself, knowing myself that way is a really important way that I've grown. So you can celebrate. So huzzah! Hey, yay for me. So in the chat, put how you've grown over the last 30 days and we'll celebrate you. Thank you, Brandon. It's so funny that's backwards in the back when I hold it this way. There's probably a button somewhere that makes it not backwards, but I don't know how to do that. So we're just going to deal with that. Will, who's posting as Jamie, said, I had a very special experience today that really helped me. I did not know that. That's wonderful. Huzzah, Will! Huzzah for Will! Well, if anyone else wants to put any way they've grown over the last 30 days, go ahead and please put that in the chat. And in the meantime, I want to talk about these things written on our board here. So let's do this. So these are the 12 principles of the love season. And I want to talk first about this one here, patience. Let's talk about Brandon actually. Brandon says, I'd recognized that I was in a bit, it went away. I didn't get to see it. Brandon grew somehow. He was in some kind of, it appeared on my screen, then it went away what he said. Now I can see it again. Okay. Brandon says, I had recognized that I was in a bit of a slump and felt like I didn't have a lot of energy to move forward. This past season has helped me feel more energized to work on myself. Huzzah for Brandon. Good job, Brandon. Patience right here. Okay. So patience is a really important part of love. In order to love someone, we have to be patient with them because people aren't where they're gonna be yet, right? Like it might be, in some ways it might feel easier to love someone who's like arrived, right? So someone who treats us well all the time, someone who doesn't ever let us down, right? Someone like that would be easy to love. And patience is the ability to love someone now as if they were there, even when they aren't yet. And so patience has to do with waiting. And so we're okay with we're okay with loving people while we patiently wait for them to arrive. Patience also involves boundaries, right? Because while we're loving people while waiting, sometimes we need some boundaries in place in order to say, hey, I'm going to keep loving you. And I'm going to patiently, I'm going to wait for you, to get to whatever point. And I'm going to love you while I'm waiting for you. But in the meantime, I have this boundary in place, right? So if there's someone that patience doesn't mean just letting people hurt us. So if someone's hurting us, we can put up a boundary that says, hey, don't cross this boundary. Boundary might even be as extreme as, I'm not going to talk to you at all until you change your behavior. And then patience allows us to love them while not talking to them and wanting the best for them while we have the boundary up. Patience also is really important for ourselves. If I'm going to love me, and I have to I got to love me. Like my ability to, Jesus taught love your neighbor as yourself. My ability to love, I believe that I can't love other people, can't truly, I can have sort of might be able to trick myself, but true love, I cannot truly love anyone else more than I love myself. To love myself, to learn to love myself, and then however much I love myself, I can love everyone else up to that much, is my current belief about how that works. So, I got to have patience with myself in order to love myself. I got to be okay with the fact that I'm not who I want to be yet and still love myself now. That's a really important part of love. And that's an important part of learning to love being on this planet, right? Earth, as a whole global society and global everything, Earth is not where I want it to be yet. Earth is there's lots of problems on Earth. Lots of people that hurt each other, but not just people, like there's lots of pain in nature and things. There's lots of pollution. There's lots of economic problems. There's war. There's all kinds of messy stuff on our planet. And we can have patience and love the planet while we have patience. And just love being here with patience. Let's look back at our board now. I'm getting pretty good at flipping that around. Okay, let's look at some of these other principles here. Let's look at temperance. All right. Now, how does temperance fit into love? So when we talk about temperance, we're usually talking about avoiding extremes, right? And when you have temperance, you don't go on these crazy extremes. You don't have like big ups and big downs. You're kind of steady. And you're steady in this very like present kind of way. I think a lot right now of Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle, a lot of people who talk with me after a little while get to know that I talk a lot about Eckhart Tolle. He wrote a book called The Power of Now, which talks a lot about how to just be very present in the present moment and how to just really like just be present and to not be so like go, not to be so upset, but just kind of present and really experience whatever you're experiencing. And in the book, well, he finished the book, and when he finished it, he didn't have a publisher. So he just self-published a bunch of copies, just started walking from library to library, giving these books to people, and just saying, hey, can I give you a copy of my book? And if it doesn't sell after a few weeks, I'll come get it back. And he just kind of did that. I just kind of sold like little tiny copies of his book here and there. The guy at the time was sort of homeless, like he was just sleepy. He was he had a house in England, but he sold it and felt that it was really important for him to move to the United States. So he moved to the Western United States, and he just couch surfed up and down the western coast of the United States and Canada. He just couch surfed up and down while he wrote the book. Then when he finished the book, he just like went around like trying to get people to put in their bookstore. It was just this really sort of like, and he didn't know what he was doing with his life. But then a copy of the book ended up in the hands of Oprah Winfrey. And then she loved it. It like changed her life. And then she, started getting in contact with him and talking about the book and wanting to help promote the book. And then she decided to put the book on her like special book club. So Oprah has a special book club, and any books that are on it always become like top sellers. And so she decided to put it in there. So she called him up and she said, hey, Eckhart, I'm going to put your book in my book club. And he went, oh, that's nice. And she laughed and she said, that's really strange. Anyone I ever call about this gets really excited. It's very strange that you're not getting very excited. And he goes, oh, I'm very happy, but it's just nice. I'm just glad it's happened. But he didn't like freak out about it. And he shares this experience, and he says that, he often thinks of this, and he wasn't trying to react a certain way. He was just being himself. And that's just kind of the way he goes about life. And he talked about how Oprah has often told this story to people when she introduces him to people, and that story had a huge effect upon Oprah. It kind of helped Oprah like learn about temperance. And Eckhart, when he shares this story, he talks about how, just the way he's learned to live his life, he doesn't like go in like huge emotional highs and huge emotional lows. He kind of just is in this state of like nice pleasantness all the time. And I think, I don't know. I'm not saying that like it's a bad idea to like rejoice in things and be excited about things. I'm just saying that, Eckhart says that if you get, for him, like he'd rather be more steady than go on these big highs, these big lows, because the high is great, but then like you're afraid you're gonna lose it or something, and then you go on these lows, and then you're like, oh, this is the worst. Like, like Oprah might have said, say, hey, I'm gonna publish your book, and he's so excited, but then something else happens just a little bit later, and he goes way down again, right? There's something about just being really present and really temperate, where everything is wonderful, right? Like just being alive is amazing, and being in the present moment is amazing and precious all the time. That when things happen, you're happy about them, but they don't like blow you out of proportion because you're just in love with being alive every moment. And when awful things happen, it's like you're like sad and you feel things about it, but it doesn't like totally throw you off because you're still in love with being alive every moment. And so I think temperance is like this like steady love where you just love that you're alive in like this steady way. And you have this steady kind of joy instead of these ups and downs things. And this doesn't mean being numb. Like I think some people push all their emotions down, and then they think they have something like this, right? They're like, oh, they like push all emotions down, they cut off all their emotions, and then go through life kind of numb. That's not what I'm talking about. It's because going through life numb isn't love, because you're numb to the love. It's just that you love so consistently and so constantly, and that love has so much joy embedded in it, that's just your normal state of being, that little things that happen to you don't throw you off a lot, because that love is just such a steady part of who you are. Yeah, so that's my thoughts about temperance. Let's look at these some more. And if anyone has any questions, please throw them in the chat at any moment. Let's talk about truth. So all of these things here, all these statements are inspired by the words of Paul, which in the Bible, and also by the words of Moroni in the Book of Mormon, when they describe the aspects of charity or of love. And these words are like interpretations of those little statements they say, right? So patience, is love suffereth long. That's where that comes from. Truth says, it says that charity clingeth unto truth. Charity really likes the truth. And this is interesting to think about, the connection between love and truth. One aspect I think of this is that love is honest. That love doesn't have to true love doesn't have to pretend in order to have positive feelings. Like if I truly love myself, I don't have to pretend that I'm different than I really am. I can be honest about myself and the love stays true. I don't have to pretend that other people like pretend that I didn't notice things about people. I can like be totally honest about stuff while still loving people. I'm totally honest, totally like honest with people, totally honest about feeling how I do about whatever they do and still love them. Sometimes I think we try to love by having blinders, right? There's this statement that I've heard people say a lot, that before you get into marriage, have your eyes wide open, but once you get in, put your eyes half closed. And I think I think that statement can be valuable in the sense that, maybe don't let small things don't get too upset about small things. There's something to that, right? Like, but at a certain point, as your love matures in a marriage, I think that sometimes that statement can lead us to like just put up with stuff instead of actually addressing it. And if we're honest with our partner in a marriage, or honest of any other relationship, of like, hey, this is how I actually feel about how things are going between us, and then we can by really bringing those things up and taking care of them, we can get our love to a whole nother level. I think true deep love doesn't have to lie or pretend in order to be. True deep love can see everything and be aware of everything, can know the truth about everything, and does not stop loving. Let's see, which other ones here do we want to talk about? Let's talk about purity. So, purity. This one's interesting. Another way to say this purity one, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be like pure all the time or perfect or anything like that. It does, nor does it mean that like that you have to like be like super snobby or like self-righteous. What purity's what and maybe there's a better word for it. If someone has a suggestion at some point, better word for it. I think on the 13 season site, I put a whole like phrase there, and the phrase I put I think was love while staying virtuous. And the idea here is that sometimes we love people that are not virtuous, right? Like we love people who do not at all embody the virtues that 13 seasons tries to teach. And sometimes when we meet someone like that, we're tempted to not love them, right? Because it's like, oh, they're kind of dark, they're kind of whatever. I'm afraid they'll rub off on me. I better stay away from them because it might rub off on me. But love can have the power to like love people that are living in like a lower frequency than you without their lower frequency affecting you at all. One way this can play out is like if you're talking with someone who's just right now in a really bad place, like someone being in a really dark place, and being able to have like the right kind of emotional filter where you can talk with them and love them, but their darkness doesn't like seep into you, but instead your light seeps into them. And sometimes even like you can love someone and empathize with them, and you can actually kind of hold on to their darkness with them, but the darkness doesn't become you, you're just holding it with them. That's what we mean by purity. It's the ability to love darkness without the darkness becoming you. And another way this can play out, I guess a related principle, is loving people when they don't treat you virtuously. So one of the tricky things about learning virtue I found, and I've talked with many other people too, when people start learning the kinds of virtues that are on the 13 season site, many people I talk to get frustrated because as they learn those principles, they start trying to treat other people that way, and then other people don't treat them that way back, and it really frustrates them. And they get like really, really annoyed because they're like, hey, I'm going the extra mile to do this, and other people aren't reciprocating. Like other people should do this to me like I'm trying to do to them. And that's a really tricky thing. And it can be tricky in a family. Like if a family does a really good job of living these virtues, then the children learn these virtues, and the children see an example of parents who treat them this way. But they're not always, but in order to live life, you just have to interact with other people. like you just, part of living this world is interacting with people outside your family. And so it can be tricky for kids who grow up learning virtue, because then they interact with people in other families or like adults in other settings, like at school or like part of church or in clubs or activities or things. They go to their friend's house, and other adults or other people their age don't treat them in these virtuous ways, and it really throws them for a loop because they're like, what? And that's part of where this principle can come in, that we can like love people while having boundaries. And we can be patient with people. I guess we're bringing a lot of principles together right now, right? We're bringing the patient with people who aren't doing this way. And we gotta, if we're gonna, part of learning virtue is learning how to live with people that don't do virtue. That's just part of the process. And these love principles that we're learning today have a lot to do with that. In fact, one of them right here, meekness. Meekness is just what I'm describing now. Meekness is the ability to love someone, have them hurt you, and then your love doesn't go away because they hurt you. Your love for them or the people. When we love people and they hurt us, the temptation is to turn off our love so we don't get hurt again. But meekness is the ability to keep loving even after someone has hurt you. And that is like tricky stuff. That is not easy to do. There's a poem that's attributed to Mother Teresa where I don't have the words of the poem in front of me right now, but she says like she lists a whole bunch of ways that you might try to love people and they might hurt you because of it, and she keeps saying, and she basically says over and over again, if you love people, they'll hurt you. Love them anyways. If you give of yourself, people might take advantage of you. Give of yourself anyways. And I think that's really powerful. But knowing Mother Teresa, she was a really tough lady. Like, she was super tough. And so I'm sure that as she lived that she put up boundaries. And that's part of how you do this. Love does not do well without boundaries. When you don't have boundaries, when you love without boundaries, you get hurt. And you need boundaries in place in order to feel comfortable loving again. Love needs boundaries. And without boundaries, if you don't communicate your boundaries to people, people don't know how you want to be loved, and the relationships won't work. Love needs boundaries. Which other one of these do we want to talk about today? If anyone has questions about any of these words, please throw them in the chat. Let's talk about consistency. Consistency has a lot to do with some of the principles I've been talking about. It's kind of related to the patience. It's related to the temperance. It's related to a lot of these. It's your love is consistent, right? Your love's consistent toward you learn to get to the point where your love's consistent towards everyone, right? You're not a respecter of persons. You don't like love one person. I mean, I get that we do have I gotta be careful how I say this, because we do have relationships that are deeper, right? There's people we know better, that we've had more time to develop a relationship with. There's people that we prioritize, which is appropriate, right? Like, there's certain relationships, like your family, that's important to prioritize. I'm not saying, so there is a place for sort of loving some people more, in a sense, but another sense, in a different kind of way, from a different angle, depending on your definition of love, you kind of love everyone the same, right? Your love is like consistent. And what it means is that you don't and your love's consistent with every person in every place, right? In every context. So people can trust you, right? So if you're in one setting, you love the same way you would in a different setting. An example of this could be some people are better at loving in one setting than another. Like, maybe someone's like a nurse, and when they're a nurse, they're like really, really, really good at showing a lot of care for people in their profession. And then they go home. By the time they get home, they're tired, and they have a habit of just not showing that same care to their own family, right? That's an example of someone who's not loving consistently. The idea is that you learn how to get to the point, you learn whatever you need to do so that people can count on you loving the same way. You don't surprise people with loving one moment and the next moment your love changes. It's consistent. People know they can always count on it, and they know what they can expect from you. You have the same standards for everyone, right? To everyone you say, I love everyone the same, and I'm going to treat everyone the same. And if you treat me this way, this is how I respond. So you have boundaries, right? But your boundaries sort of work the same way for everyone. So if you say to your you have this, you're able to have the same sort of standard of boundaries for everyone. Meaning that you might look, the cats love food. Look at these cats. They're really excited to eat right now. They really, really, really love food. They love food consistently. Every single day, they like the food the same amount. Yeah, so I'm trying to think how to say this right. Because you might have different boundaries with different people based on the relationship. Different relationships entail different kinds of boundaries. But what I'm saying by this is you don't show favoritism towards people just for weird random reasons. If two people give you the same kind of trust, you love them both back equally and show favor them both equally. You don't have different kinds of standards to different people. People can count on you to be consistent. That's what I'm trying to say. What else do you want to talk about here? Let's talk about selflessness. Selflessness also requires boundaries, by the way. Um, Selflessness comes from the verse, seek, the part of the verses we're talking about that says, seeketh not her own. Selflessness means that selflessness is really important to love, right? I think we can all agree pretty quickly that we wouldn't think of a selfish person as a loving person. But this can also get us in trouble because sometimes we can interpret this to mean that we shouldn't do anything for ourselves ever, right? But remember what I said, you can only love other people as much as you love yourself. So I think what selflessness really means is that you love your neighbor as yourself, not more or less than yourself. You don't try to love your neighbor more than yourself. You don't try to love your neighbor less than yourself. You love your neighbor as yourself. I think that's the true meaning of selflessness. Maybe there's a better word than selflessness we could find. I can tell the one story though that illustrates the point. So, my arm's getting tired holding this phone. I usually hold it like this to make it and then it actually feels less tiring, but it's locked. It won't go that way. Okay, we'll survive. I want to tell a story. So, a few years ago, I had been during COVID. Obviously, we didn't go anywhere or do anything. And during COVID, our family, of course, didn't go to church at all. We did our own church in our house, and that suited me just fine, frankly. I really like doing church in our house, just as our family, and having complete control over the experience. That was a really pleasant thing for me that worked really, really, really well. So I'm distracted. A car just pulled in and pulled out. So they're okay. Well, God bless them. I will love them. Yeah, I guess I felt like a boundary was being crossed. A car pulled up, and I was like, is this person going to come to our door? I'm doing a live stream right now. I got time for this. Don't cross my boundary. I was feeling like a high alert. My heart beat went higher because I felt like this car that was pulling up was crossing my boundary. But then they just pulled away, and it wasn't at the end of the world. And I'm like, oh, I can relax now. That's an example of how when we feel like our boundaries are being crossed, we feel angry. We want to protect. We want to feel protected, and that can that's kind of complicated. But if other people don't know our boundaries, we can't work through that. If this person had come to the door and knocked the door, I'd be all angry and not feeling love towards them because they're interrupting my live stream. But they don't know that, right? If I give them the benefit of the doubt, it doesn't make. They don't know that. If I were to, most people, I think if I told them don't come to my house in this time, he's doing a live stream, then they wouldn't. And so that's just an example of how it's really. We have a lot of times our anger and frustration with people comes from having boundaries they don't know about. And that's important to be thoughtful about, I think. Okay. Love. Let's get back on my story. So during COVID, I didn't go to church. Like everyone did go to church. There were a lot of people I went to church with who I was feeling kind of frustrated with. And I was kind of suited me just fine to not go to church and not be there around some people that I was frustrated with. And then church started up again at the end of COVID, and I had some serious time to think, am I going to go to church? Or do I want to just keep doing my own thing at home? And I consulted with God or with my higher self, with my own spirit. I just felt an assurance that was really important for me to go and gather at church again, which kind of bugged me because I didn't want to. But I went ahead and went. And the first few weeks of doing that were whatever. But then after, I can't remember, but eventually though, not long after going back, I had this really interesting experience where I was at church. I think I've shared this on another live stream here, but I'm going to share it now because it's really important. I was at church, and I just felt Jesus say to me, I want you to see the world through my eyes. Then all of a sudden, I'm in Jerusalem, in, around around 30, whatever, around, the turn of the millennium, like 0 AD, around that time, when Jesus was on the planet. And I was seeing the whole world through his eyes. And through his eyes, I looked at a tree, and it was just so obvious that tree is me. There was no separation between me and the tree. I looked at the tree and saw myself. And I looked at the Pharisees, who, by the way, thought of themselves as the enemies of Jesus. I looked at a Pharisee through Jesus' eyes, and the feeling I had was, that is me. There wasn't the separation between me and others. I looked at anyone and anything and just felt, that is me. There was not separation, all was one. And then Jesus said to me, now I want you to see your own life this way. And then I was, back in the sacrament, back in the meeting, and I was, for about 15 minutes, it seemed, I was just there with all these people that I had felt frustrated with. And I was like, they are me, I am them. Like we were just one. And in that moment, selflessness and selfishness just didn't make any sense. Like, there was talking about those words were just nonsensical because I was one. So to take care of me is to take care of them, and to take care of them is to take care of me. Like, I didn't have to pick between them or me. So talking about being selfish or selfless just was just silly. Maybe there's a better word. Maybe instead of, we say seeketh not her own, maybe there's a better way of saying that, which is just be one. And so that's my thoughts about selflessness. And I think that's all my thoughts about love today. We didn't talk about all of the 12 virtues of this season. You can go on 13seasons.org to read more about the other ones. And anyone's welcome to reach out to me whenever you have a question about any of the love virtues. And if anyone has any questions right now they want to put in the chat, you can do that and I will address them. Oh, we have had questions. Sorry. There are questions going on here like crazy. I had accidentally turned off the chat thing. Okay, let me read these questions. Okay, Brandon says, it feels like this season is all about how to apply the virtues from the other seasons, our relationships with the people around us. Is that pretty accurate? Yes, Fran, you're accurate. And look at this. Watch this. See how there's 12 virtues here? Watch this. If I have humility, then I see everyone's journey as being as important to my journey. And thus, I value fulfilling everyone's unity. If I have meekness, then I don't get bent out of shape by things people do. And thus, I accept their agency. If I have selflessness, then I communicate in a way that's selfless, right? If we didn't have, if you were the only being in the universe, then communication wouldn't matter. Communication matters because you want to talk to others. And when you talk to others, it's important. So the reason to talk to others is to engage with others. Thus, communication is a selfless activity. If I'm going to heal, I got to have hope. Because if you go into healing starting with despair, then you won't be seeking for the highest healing. Right? This is seeking the best possible outcome. And sometimes we try to heal, but we heal not really expecting that we can go all the way. And so hope is needed for healing. Belief is about believing people's feelings, believing that they feel what they feel. Kindness is important for boundaries because it's important to communicate boundaries kindly. And when people cross our boundaries, it's important to be kind in the way we invite them to keep the boundaries. Consistency is about staying motivated because it's consistent. A motivated person keeps going. It's consistent. Love is consistent. Confelicity is having happiness with others when they have happiness. And that's so important in knowledge because because the trap you get in with knowledge is that when you have knowledge, you can think of yourself as better than others, right? Oh, I know something you don't. But when you have confelicity, you think, oh, I know something, I want you to know it too. I want us to share the knowledge. Purity is about perception because when you go to perceive something that's dark, it's important not to let the darkness affect you, but you do need to understand the darkness. So there's a discernment to this. Truth is about truth, discerning truth because it's truth, right? Patience is about self-awareness because you have to be patient with yourself as you work through your stuff with yourself, right? You have to love yourself now, which is the first principle of self-awareness. You got to be patient with yourself. And then temperance, so each of these is like facilitates that, and then temperance facilitates love itself. Because if you don't have that solid presence of temperance, then you're not, you just don't have that consistent, pure, ever flowing love. So yes, absolutely, this season is about applying all the virtues. It's not a coincidence that the love season has 12 virtues and there's 12 principles, because all of them help us do the others. And so I think that's a really cool principle. Yeah, and our cats are way noisy. So I have to really focus on loving with consistency when they wake me up in the morning. Recently, our cats love to wake us up at like 4:30 in the morning with their loudness. And that takes certain meekness and things to work through that. Okay, Brandon also asks, do you have any thoughts on how you can love someone who intentionally crosses boundaries you have set? Okay, so if someone intentionally crosses boundaries you have set, then the appropriate boundary is to say, hey, you communicate that to them, right? Communicate to them, hey, you're crossing my boundaries, and because of that, I'm not going to associate with you in these ways, right? It's when people intentionally cross boundaries. I think that's an important time to you don't have to shun them from your life entirely or cut them out of your life in every way, but you set some really firm boundaries and you enforce them by just staying away. People intentionally cross boundaries. Are people to stay away from if you can. But the tricky part is to do that while still loving them. When you have forgive them somehow, whatever that takes, so that while you have that space from them, you're still loving them, so that the second they're ready to follow your boundaries, you're ready to just pick up the relationship and love in that moment. Now, what do you do though in situations where someone breaks boundaries on purpose, but creating a separation just doesn't feel like a viable option? Maybe it's someone you work with and you need the money and getting a job isn't an option right now and you're gonna have to keep spending time with them. Or what if it's someone in your family, if it's your own child who's doing this, or your brother or sister and you're growing up, you're kind of stuck with that situation, right? So that's where this gets really tricky. And I don't have a perfect answer for that situation. The best I know how to do is to communicate to that person really clearly how them crossing the boundary affects you. So, and there's a big difference. Sometimes we communicate boundaries in a way where we start the conversation with, I don't like you, right? The conversation just the way we start the conversation instantly sends the message, I don't like you. And then the other person, the thing they pick up is, I'm not enough, right? We start and then as soon as they get that message, so the thing is, despair is the most deadly emotion there is. Despair, the frequency of despair is so low that it cannot sustain life. So if someone feels despair for an extended period of time, they will die, literally. Because despair does not have enough life force to allow you to keep living. And our bodies know that. So our bodies try to protect us from despair any way they can. Anger has a higher frequency than despair. You can live a lot longer on anger than despair. So if I say something to someone that threatens their sense of self-esteem in any way, they will start to go into despair. They'll feel oh no, I hurt this person, they're gonna abandon me, despair. And so they'll replace their despair with anger, because anger is better for survival, because you can live on anger, you can't live on despair. Because anger takes you places. Anger moves, right? So they'll go to anger instead of despair. So if you start the conversation about boundaries with someone in a way that isn't kind, right? Remember how kindness is part of boundaries? If you start the conversation with someone where you want to talk about boundaries and you do it in a way that in any way leads them to think that you're attacking them personally, then they're going to go to anger. And from a place of anger, they might try pushing your boundaries even more to fight back. So the trick is to communicate them in a way that says, where you say, this isn't about your worth in any way. This is, I'm not criticizing your behavior. I want you to understand how your behavior affects me. I'm not getting mad at you. I'm inviting you to listen to my feelings. And if you can find a way to say that with strength, and saying that with strength is what meekness is. If you can find a way to say that with strength, then you can say to them, hey, when you cross this boundary, it affects me in this way. And then instead of it being an attack on them, it feels like an invitation to help you. And instead of feeling like this is about their worth, they can feel like, oh, I care about this person. I don't want them to feel that way. I'm going to stop crossing their boundary because I want something better for them. If you can find a way to get to that place, that's when you start having success. And I really believe that deep down inside, there's a voice in all of us that knows how to have that conversation with whoever we need to have it with. And if you can find that voice and talk to the person from the space of that voice, you'll have success. Let's see here. I think I addressed all the comments. Yeah, Brandon says, I love the idea of being ready to accept them as soon as they're ready to work with you again. That's how you know if you're in the place of patience, right? I think that's all I have to say today. I feel like the well of what's in me to say just went dry. I just pulled all the water out. I think that's everything. So I bless you. I just bless all of you with every ability I have to bless you with success. Bless you and me through our oneness with success at loving people this season, with the ability to mend relationships that need it, the ability to really set these boundaries with people that we love and communicate with them in a way that works for us. I bless us to love ourselves, to love the entire planet, to love the universe, to love each other, to just love everything. And I bless us to let go of this habit of doing tasks and see everything as a relationship. You know, to be able to get in the car and drive the car and have a relationship with the car, to enjoy the house we live in, have a relationship with the house, to clean the house and see it as part of the relationship with the home itself and with the people who live in it, to go to work and have it be about the relationships with the people we work with and the people who we support with that money. To every time we use money, have it be about a relationship with the money itself and a relationship with everyone we give the money to have it always be about gratitude for the services we receive. To be grateful that we can use money as part of relationships with people. To be able to look at the stars and have a relationship with them, to look at the lights in our homes and be grateful for the light and have a relationship with the light itself, to have everything be about relationships. I want that for us, and I'm excited to hear how it goes on the next one of these. And so I hope you all have a very, very, very fantastic season of love. Bye.